Hi, I'm Wes Kussmaul. I'm the CIO, CEO, and founder of the Authenticity Institute. I'm also the author of these books, and I'm the founder of Delphi, which was one of the 4 largest online services, along with AOL, CompuServe, and Prodigy before we sold it to Rupert Murdoch and his News Corporation. Recently, I was appointed by the Secretary General of the International Telecommunication Union to serve as a member of the high-level experts group of the ITU's global cybersecurity agenda. I was appointed to that position because of an observation that I've been pretty vocal about, and that is that security problems are the effect of a bigger problem, and that problem is inauthenticity. The other side of that coin is that if you solve inauthenticity, you solve lots of other problems. Security is just one of them. We learned a lot about the importance of authenticity at Delphi. At Delphi, we were the first to bring the internet to mass audiences. Delphi popularized the internet. No, really. In 1990, everyone was reading about this fascinating and inaccessible thing called the internet. We came along with 2 messages. First, here's how the internet is relevant to your life, and second, here's how you can have it. We transformed the internet from Worldwide Faculty Club to popular media and made good money doing it. We saw the internet inflection point coming, and we saw how to capitalize on it. Today, the authenticity inflection point is right here, right now. This inflection point is about more than the world's information infrastructure. It's about the world's economy, because the awareness economy is about to yield to the authenticity economy. The Authenticity Institute is a business incubator. It's an authenticity business incubator because authenticity is a good business. But we've learned from experience that real authenticity requires components that cannot come from a commercial enterprise. And so we're not completely a business incubator. Some of the organizations we incubate are non-commercial and non-profit. These organizations are built upon a fundamentally new set of assumptions, and I need to explain those assumptions first. The new assumptions come from something we learned at Delphi. I launched Delphi as a closed online service in 1981, 10 years before the ban on commercial traffic on the internet was lifted. Delphi hosted my invention, the world's first computerized encyclopedia. Delphi also provided email, chat, news, weather, sports, stock quotes, etc. Most importantly, Delphi was a collection of professional and avocational social networks. At Delphi, we learned about the relationship between authenticity and privacy. Even if our Delphi member used a pseudonym, back in the office we had his credit card number and address. If the user broke rules or laws while online, we knew how to find him. There was accountability even without published identities. Like the accountability we have with car registrations. Everyone can see your license plate number, but others can't know your identity, except under certain circumstances. So we have anonymity and accountability at the same time. But there has to be a back office whose practices and policies are visible and monitorable and at the same time secure. This can be done. So Delphi was launched at the beginning of the 80s and prospered through the beginning of the 90s until we sold it. That was before the big trouble, the epidemic of inauthenticity, with things like the dot-com bust, where seemingly outrageous predictions from analysts like Henry Blodgett suggesting that Amazon would double in value came true in a few weeks, causing investment banks to offer millions to try to hire those analysts to hype new dot-com underwriting business, with not a lot of attention paid to the merit of the companies being underwritten, with predictable results. But the big trouble didn't end with the dot-com nonsense. Companies played fast and loose with the facts and got investment banks and respected accounting firms to attest to their fantasies. Do you remember wondering what happened to integrity and authenticity and thinking that things can't possibly get worse than Enron and WorldCom? But of course they did. Mortgage originators and their friends came up with a very imaginative new process, a refining process, if you will, for turning low-grade mortgage ore into golden marketable securities. Each step of the way, the underlying festering junk debt is made a little prettier. The 2 technical terms for this process are securitization and fraud. The refining process tends to make things precarious for a while until, again, the results are predictable. This sign says Lehman Brothers, where vision get. We should have a contest to come up with the best ending to that sentence. Now, what happened to those who attested to the reality of all this stuff? The firms went under, the investors lost everything, but management collected their bonuses and moved on. Fraud and theft have become common business practices on Wall Street. But it's not just Wall Street. MIT Technology Review finally proclaimed that the emperor is naked, the internet is broken. The article calls for a clean slate, and Stanford University responds. But the MIT Stanford slate isn't clean at all. It addresses mostly internet technology and fails to address the root cause of the problems. The root cause is the same as the cause of the dot-com bust and the cause of the ongoing and worsening epidemic of Wall Street problems. It's all summed up in one word. I'll share that word with you in a minute. At least I'll show it on the screen. It's a word I wouldn't normally use in this kind of setting. But first, let's ask why there are so many security problems online and offline. Let's ask an expert in the marketing of security technology. Let's pause a moment to look at this advice in a magazine for people who sell information technology to you and me. The advice of Kapil Rana, a knowledgeable security expert, seems to be, do not solve the customer's information security problems. Because if you solve those problems with a well-thought-out and well-architected solution, then you deprive yourself of ongoing revenue. Kapil Rana's quote explains why there are no security architectures, as another distinguished security expert, the author of the El-Gamal asymmetric cryptography algorithm, points out. No security architectures? The world has spent hundreds of billions of dollars, conceivably $1 trillion, on information security. That investment has produced no security architectures? According to the distinguished cryptographer Taher El-Gamal, that's exactly the case. The lack of security architectures is a consequence of rampant inauthenticity combined with some worn-out assumptions. Today, we'll examine old assumptions and we'll learn about architecture. Not computer technology, but architecture. We'll build upon something we learned at Delphi. At Delphi, we learned how to ensure that people were accountable for their actions while online, while at the same time ensuring that their privacy was protected. Some would have you believe that that's all changed, that we all must give up our privacy in order to have security. That is pure nonsense. It's nonsense that's propagated by organizations whose principal money-making balance sheet asset is your own personal information. Kind of like a respected museum that finds itself with stolen artworks in its inventory and doesn't want to give them back, and most definitely does not want to discuss its own role in the theft of the asset. We can have online spaces which are accessible from the internet and which are virtually free of spam, viruses, fraud, predation, botnets, phishing attacks. Even better, the very same set of tools and building materials that we use to deliver those benefits will deliver that other big benefit, real privacy. How will we do that? We'll do that by using some technology that's been well proven over nearly 3 decades. Most importantly for us today, we'll start by challenging some old internet assumptions. You may be asking why, if the technology has been proven for decades, the internet is still broken, as MIT, among others, keep telling us. Our presentation today is addressed specifically to people who are prepared to question old assumptions. It's our hope that you're among the minority of people who tend to see assumptions for what they are. That is, assumptions are things that wear out with time. The answer to the question, why is the internet broken if the tools and materials to fix it are available and proven, is precisely the same as the answer to a question asked by these inventors of steel and reinforced concrete in 1847. Today we're going to talk about some remarkable materials with which we can construct secure and reliable online spaces that are accessible via the internet. And we're going to show that just as 160 years ago it took new ordinances and building codes and construction methods, not to mention cranes and elevators, and most of all, new assumptions, to put concrete and steel to work building tall buildings, the same situation exists today. In 2011, we have a set of building materials, that is, technologies, that are perfect for constructing online spaces that provide security and personal privacy. But as we've seen, more than building materials are needed in order to construct secure and reliable online spaces. Just as in 1847, the new concrete and steel building materials awaited new building codes and construction methods and new assumptions and skills, so it is with our new online buildings. It turns out that most of the things needed to supplement our construction materials are quite old, and most of them have nothing to do with technology. A bit of context is important to understanding this new-old approach. Click on our 10-minute History of the World video to see that context and learn how you can bring authenticity to your online world.